Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Reserved Investments, and thank you for joining me. So I want to warn you, this is going to be a doozy. This is a very sad case. This particular individual, I have been working with him off and on for several years, and unfortunately, he didn't take my advice. He came to me after pretty much the WATA-graded video game bubble dissipated, and he realized he was in a little bit of a mess. He pretty much lost hundreds of thousands of dollars investing in these graded games. His wife divorced him, and he only really gets to see his kids almost every other weekend now. So this is a very sad tale of people who get obsessed with the collecting category and go all in. This is why I spend a lot of time on this channel warning you guys that there is a dark side to the antiques and collectibles trade. And if you are not careful, if you do not look at these markets as they are, not as what you want them to be, you can get yourself into a lot of trouble. Now, I want to be very clear here. Antiques and collectibles can be a very good investment hedge when used as part of a long-term financial portfolio. It should be, though, a very small portion of that portfolio. It should never be the whole enchilada. As you're going to see here, this person really got obsessed. This person jumped headfirst into a speculative bubble, and it slapped him upside the head with a stale donut. Now, another thing I do want to comment on, I know on this channel, I use terms like Timmies, Kimmies, and Poindexters to illustrate people that don't know what they're doing. Always remember, you guys choose your course of action in life. In this world that we find ourselves existing in, whether you agree with it or not, that's not the question. That doesn't even matter. What does matter is you should know by now, whether you're a man or a woman, you are defined by the actions you take. If you consistently take bad courses of action, if you make bad decisions in relationships, in your professional career, in financial business dealings, in investments, obviously you're going to get a reputation for being a person that pretty much is, I hate to say this, stupid. That is a choice you are making. You have the power, you have the tools to change that so that you do not stay a Timmy, a Kimmy, or a Poindexter. And I want to make that very clear because every time I use those terms, somebody cuts me up in the comment section or sends me a nasty email telling me that I'm being condescending. Again, you choose your own destiny. It's just like Mortal Kombat. Choose your destiny. If you want to be a Timmy, Kimmy, or Poindexter, then just keep making bad decisions, keep doing stupid stuff, keep not applying analytical or critical thinking to your decisions, and that's what you're going to be defined as. You cannot then, though, get upset when your life represents that of a Timmy, Kimmy, or a Poindexter. So now that I said all that, we're going to dive right in to this email, and you're going to see how bad it ended up for this particular individual. And spoiler alert, he is still reeling with the effects of this disaster, and that's partially due because he refuses to take all of my advice. Now, how this played out is this person contacted me recently because we had another consult scheduled. And he said, you know what, Sean, I'm going to send you an email just pretty much summarizing my experience here. And I want you to do a video on it to alert your viewers. And the agreement was, and he knows I wouldn't do this because I myself am a private individual. He said, as long as you don't reveal my identity in any way, I'm okay with this. Well, naturally, in a sensitive situation like this, I never would reveal the individual's identity. So with all that out of the way, this is the email in its entirety. We're going to go through it. I'm going to give you my thoughts, and also I'm going to give you more thoughts at the end of the email, just so that you understand how dangerous speculating in these markets can truly be. Dear Sean, I am humbly allowing you to share my story because I am one of the many individual collectors who lost almost everything by not listening to your advice. Since as far back as I can remember, I have always loved collecting things and am a huge fan of vintage Nintendo games. I got my original Nintendo system back in 1991, right before the release of the Super NES, when I was in grade school. And thanks to incredible franchises like Super Mario Brothers, Metroid, and The Legend of Zelda, I was immediately hooked. My love of Nintendo only increased when roughly 2 years later, I convinced my parents to get me a Super Nintendo system. Nintendo did not disappoint, and I was completely blown away by games like F-Zero, Pilot Wings, and Zelda 3, A Link to the Past. By the time the Nintendo 64 launched, I was in high school and could not believe the quantum leap in technology, with Super Mario 64 becoming my all-time favorite Nintendo game. I graduated high school and went off to college, but my love of all things Nintendo never really waned. In college, I was a science major. Quick note here, I did change his exact major. It is part of the sciences, but again, I don't want to provide any information that might lead to this individual's identity. So that is one thing that I did change. So in college, I was a science major at heart, and through college, I spent my spare time either dating or playing video games. By the time the Nintendo GameCube debuted, I was happily engaged to the woman of my dreams who would become my wife and give me 2 beautiful children. My love of collecting and Nintendo games continued, and I was always open and transparent with my wife about what I was buying. She supported and encouraged my hobby, as I have lost several friends throughout the years to alcohol, drugs, and gambling addictions, so my love of video games seems so benign compared to some of the vices that have affected other men. And I do want to state, this is a major problem right now. Addictions are really one of the things that is pretty much just destroying, ripping through the fabric of our culture, of our very lives right now. And it's not only alcohol, drugs, gambling. You can be addicted to, am I allowed to say this word on YouTube? Porn. You could be addicted to bad relationships. You could be addicted to shopping. You could be addicted to buying antiques and collectibles, hint, hint, and calling them investments, as you're going to see here. So let's go back to the email. Throughout the next several decades, I was able to amass an incredible vintage video game collection, and I also got promoted several times in my field and started earning low 6 figures. What came next has been a blur, as I never thought a guy like me, who holds 2 master's degrees, would ever end up in this situation. And I really want to comment on this, because going back to my commentary on whether you choose to become and stay a Timmy, Kimmy, or Poindexter, believe it or not, guys, there are people out there with master's degrees, doctorates, people that are really highly educated and successful that make very bad decisions. This is why, believe it or not, I'm going to throw a statistic out to you. And I learned this in my financial career. Are you aware close to 86% of all high-earning individuals? Now, when we look at high-earning individuals, today, with inflation and everything, these are probably people that make over 200 grand a year. Are you aware 86% of those individuals will pretty much retire and die broke? That's how bad it is, where a lot of people out there that make a lot of money, they do not have any financial sense. And I just want to bring that to your attention, because that's why I teach collectible finance on this channel. So you don't make the mistakes that those people make, or heaven forbid, that this individual found himself in. Now let's get back to the email. By the time Wada Games launched in 2018, I was already actively collecting and thinking about investing in factory-sealed vintage video games. Just my current collection of vintage video games alone was worth close to $70,000 at this time. And I started to join several online collecting forums and Facebook groups. And this is where you have to be careful. Always remember, something known as confirmation bias exists. If you constantly surround yourself with people that all have your same interests and all think exactly like you do, guess what's going to happen? It's going to cloud your judgment. It's going to cloud your mind. You're going to come into the comment section a lot of my videos, and you're going to get really defensive, and you're going to say, Sean, you don't understand. Everybody loves Super Mario. Everybody loves Pokemon. Everybody loves Batman. Everybody loves Star Wars. Whatever it is, it's going to cloud your mind, and that's how you get sucked in to these collecting markets. And that's the problem that I have with social media, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and the like right now. You know, one of the things that I'm working on behind the scenes, there's a lot of people that are pressuring me, including my own sister, to have a presence on Instagram. And I've always pushed back on that. And this is something that really I'm mulling over in my mind, because even if like I just had a presence on Instagram where I showed off some of the cool things in my collection, or every once in a while I uploaded a video like this, or I gave some exclusive content to some of my fans out there on Instagram, I think it could be a positive thing. But what I worry about is people look at me in that light and they say, well, this Sean guy, he has hundreds of thousands of dollars invested in the antiques and collectibles trade. So therefore, he has money. So if I do that, I'm going to have money too. And that's what always worries me with my presence on social media, on YouTube, and the like. That's why I'm always so cautious about the videos that I put out, the tone of the videos, and the message that I want to get across to my viewers. Remember, at the end of the day, I teach collectible finance. I teach responsible allocation of capital to these markets that make up the antiques and collectibles trade, which, if you're watching this video, you probably know and love. Now, let's get back to this email. Where did I stop here? Okay, here we go. By 2021, with the pandemic in full swing, I, like a lot of collectors and gamers, were sick of being stuck indoors. It was at this time that specifically Wada Graded Video Games had the edge. Heritage Auctions gleefully announced the sale of Super Mario 64 in Wada Games 9.8 condition, which sold for a record-breaking whopping $1.5 million. Actually, if I recall correctly, I think it went for $1,560,000. So a little bit, $16,000 more than what you stated in your email, but it's right around there. And I knew it was time for me to get in on the action. Now, this is where he's making a mistake, and I gotta make sure that my viewers are aware of this. This is where, if you see a market starts to get overheated and price levels are being broken, there's a lot of record-breaking sales, that can point to a sign that you are in the midst of a speculative bubble or a speculative frenzy. So that should tell you that if you're looking at that market and thinking of investing in it, you should probably use caution. I've long time been an advocate of selling into the hype, not buying into it. Unfortunately, this individual made the decision to buy into the hype and not sell into it. So here we go. As a result of the sale and what was happening in the overall market for vintage video games at the time, I realized I could get close to $100,000 for my current collection of video games. My strategy was to sell the collection and jump head first in the buying and investing in factory sealed games. And this is where it started. I did come across several of your videos at this time, warning me about the fact that this market was overheated and more likely in a massive speculative bubble and possibly, allegedly, being manipulated. But after talking to other like-minded collectors like myself, they assured me that you didn't know what you were talking about and were too overly cautious to be an investor in these markets. And I do want to assure all of you, I did see some of those posts about me during this time on Facebook groups and collecting forums. There were people that were active in those groups that were literally just sending me screenshots on a daily basis. And it was also at this time that I started to get death threats. There were people really making it bad for me on YouTube for speaking out against this market. So I just want to let you guys know I am well aware of what was said about me on those Facebook groups and collecting forums at that particular point in time. Now, due to the pandemic and working solely from home, I was able to sell my collection of vintage video games through eBay within a month after working almost nonstop. After all fees and expenses, I had my first $90,000 to invest in graded video games. Heritage Auctions, eBay, and several private sales later, I not only blew through the whole $90,000, but I was hooked and wanted more. Now, I do have to pause here because I did see the invoices. He provided me with everything, copies of the invoices, the transactions. We even had a Zoom call. I saw what the games he bought. He still has them, as you're going to see towards the end of this video. But this is where I have to state, guys, please understand, when you get this far in depth into something, this is more like an addiction. You really have to be careful here, especially if you're doing this in the midst of a speculative bubble. This is why I caution a lot of you. You really have to apply logic and financial sense to understanding these markets, especially over the short term, but of course also over the long term. This is something that this individual unfortunately did not do. Prices were still escalating, and I was encouraged that the collectors on a lot of these collecting forums were spot on, that this market was going to go up and up. Slowly but surely, I started spending all my excess money and putting it towards graded games. And to be fair, I do have to clarify, I'm not going to state exactly what he bought, but he bought a lot of popular vintage factory sealed Nintendo, Super Nintendo, and Nintendo 64 games. I mean, these were top tier Nintendo games. I want to be very clear, some of them. And I also want to state that if he would have waited just a couple of years after the bubble dissipated, he could have got these games, as you're going to see, much, much cheaper. And when that wasn't enough, I simply used credit cards and borrowed from my 401k without telling my wife. And right there, that's financial infidelity. So that's pretty much the downfall of his marriage. That's why I get so triggered by some of these stupid red pill, alpha male bullshit artists that tell you guys that you should be 100% in control. If you're not 100% in control in your relationship, you're not man enough. That's complete bullshit. That's a good way to get divorced. That's a good way to get a chick to leave you. And that's kind of what happened in this case. So now here we go. We're getting to the crux of this, guys. So stay with me. Looking back, I could not believe how stupid I was. All told, within a year, I spent, this is amazing, guys, $294,813.76. I added it up myself and double-checked the math on graded video games from the coveted Nintendo, Super Nintendo, and Nintendo 64 eras. Let me give you that number once again. $294,813.76. For a while, I was able to hide the purchases from my wife and intercepted the credit card statements from the mail, so she had no idea. Prices rose for the next year or so, and even after dispelling the Carl Jung video that you were part of, I continued checking completed auction prices, convinced I was doing the right thing. By now, the pandemic was pretty much coming to an end. Vaccines were readily available, and lockdowns were becoming a thing of the past. It was then that I started to notice something. Prices started falling fast. Heritage Auctions was riding the wave with auction after auction, and interest was decreasing with each passing sale. Fellow collectors I have grown to know and love simply dismissed the auction sales as a minor blip in an overall healthy market. But this is where I knew something was wrong. This is when I first contacted you and provided all the invoices of everything I purchased. I kind of knew, since it was after the fact, and at the time, you did tell me that my $294,813.76 that I spent in these games was now worth approximately anywhere from $110,000 to $150,000 at best, meaning I was headed for at least a 50 to 60% loss. It was also at this time that my wife grew increasingly suspicious because I started to withdraw from spending time with her and the kids. She was able to intercept one of the credit card statements and ask me why we owe American Express $25,000 alone. It was at this time I decided to come clean. Long story short, my wife filed for divorce, and just 2 weeks later, she claimed financial infidelity. She didn't just claim it. She's 100% correct, my friend. I'm sorry I have to keep telling you that. Your wife is 100% correct here. She did right, I hate to say this, by leaving you, given the circumstances of this and how you're still not out of the clear as of yet. And this occurred several years ago. I want to make sure that everybody is aware of that. Now, before I go any further, I do want to comment on the estimate of what these games are currently worth. Because that $110,000 to $150,000 estimate that I gave, that was literally about a little over a year ago. So right now, I predict he might be able to get, on a good day through Heritage Auctions, maybe $140,000 to $160,000 for this collection, if he chooses to let go of it. He still, once again, lost, though, over 50% just about of the value. And don't forget, even if he gets, like, let's just say on a good day, he gets 160 grand for this collection, he still has to pay Heritage their cut. So they're going to take like 20-some% minimum, if he negotiates a good auction contract. So if they take 20%, you can see now his losses are compounded even more. So that's what makes investing in these markets so inherently risky. So let's continue with the email. Today, almost 4 years later, I am still cleaning up this mess, as you are aware, and I am divorced. Ironically, as you know, I still have those games and refuse to take the sharp loss by consigning them to auction. And this is one of the things that I disagree with, guys, because I've spent so much time with him trying to get him to understand that if he lets go of the games, he's going to be okay, because he already paid off a significant portion of this debt. He's recontributing to his 401k and brokerage accounts. So literally, he could pretty much set himself free and clear by just letting go of these games. But he still has that strong of an emotional attachment. I can't convince him otherwise. He really wants to own these games. Luckily, due to my income, I am only roughly a couple of $1,000s in debt from this experience, and now in my 40s. Let this be a lesson to your viewers and clients that these markets are best for diversification only, as you recommend. I learned a very valuable lesson, and I'm still paying the ultimate price. I only get to see my kids every other weekend, and my wife is dating someone new. Oh, that has to be hard. That's the ultimate heartbreak there, man. I'm sorry, really. I am sorry about that. Regardless, keep up the excellent work. I just wish more starry-eyed speculators would take your advice more seriously instead of cutting you up on collecting forums because they think they know it all. I was one of those individuals who thought, since everybody loves Mario or Zelda, there is no way this market could fall as quickly and dramatically as it did. Thanks again for your guidance and help along the way. Do you guys see now how dangerous these markets can be? Now, obviously, this is an extreme case. I would never, ever disagree with you if you said, well, Sean, this person really, he dove head first. He did some stupid things. He pretty much pulled up to Dunkin' Donuts. He ordered a baker's dozen of donuts and pretty much slapped himself in the face with each one of those donuts simultaneously. I would agree with that synopsis. But what I am going to say, you can very easily get sucked into these markets if you are not careful. This is what emotional attachment does to us. You have to understand that these markets work best if you are able to look at them from a logical perspective. Said another way, a lot of you guys are headed down a path of disappointment and broken Ponzi dreams. And what I attempt to do on this channel is correct the mindset that you have that leads you to make those bad decisions. If you got anything out of this video, please consider liking it, sharing it, or possibly subscribing to this channel. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. And if you are subscribed, I just might see you in another upcoming video.